Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you sometimes practice your parting the wild horse's mane and it feels a bit stiff or disconnected, you may be missing a key component of the movement that is necessary to make it really flow. And I'm going to demonstrate what that is by comparing parting the wild horse's mane to a similar but slightly different movement called slanting flying that we see in the 108 form. This video is actually my continuation of my 108 form series because we got up to the end of fist under elbow, and then now we're up to repulse monkey followed by slanting flying. Let's break down what actually happens during the transition from repulse monkey to slanting flying, because this is where the core techniques of the Tai Chi code become essential. We finish repulse monkey with the right hand push. We follow with split, which loads the waist rotation here. And now elbow strike releases it into a precise 90-degree turn. This is what makes the transition feel natural and connected. You may want to pause for a moment to check out the diagrams of the waist rotation. We complete the movement with a final split. So that is slanting flying. And you notice that splitting action is identical to parting the wild horse's mane, but there is a difference in the setup. So instead of a traditional advancing step, like we do in parting the wild horse's mane, where my energy is coming forward the entire time, we begin 90 degrees offset to the left, and then we do a wide arcing step like that, and then move directly into the slanting flying movement. And that very last movement is the same as parting the wild horse's mane. But I'm going to explain the difference now, and then I always, in the Tai Chi code videos, am going to want to make some connection between these movements and your everyday walking technique and posture, because when we're practicing Tai Chi for health, it's really beneficial if we make a direct connection between the movements that we're doing in Tai Chi and the movements you would do in your daily life. So let's go to the end of the last or third repulse monkey and show you the transition to slanting flying. If you watched the earlier repulse monkey video, I did talk about torsional rotation, and I briefly want to go into that again. We have two types of rotation of the waist. And when I talk about rotational energy or spiral energy, I'm not being esoteric or metaphorical. I'm talking about specific anatomical movements that you need to do to perform the technique. And so when I say spiral energy, or I call it torsional energy, we are talking about the upper waist, which rotates like this from the external oblique muscles, turning either to the left or to the right. And then they are turning in the opposite direction from the lower ab muscles. These are primarily the internal obliques that turn to the right or to the left. The external oblique on the right turns naturally in the opposite way from the internal oblique on the right. If you can watch that, the external oblique turns across to the other side, the internal oblique turns back to the same side. So that is torsional rotation of the waist when the upper and lower waist muscles on the same side of the body are turning against each other. We use that sort of torsional rotation Every day when we are walking, my upper waist is turning to the left, lower waist is turning to the right, and that's what's pulling my leg around to make a coherent step forward. So that's torsional rotation. The opposite of torsional rotation I call concordant rotation, meaning the upper and lower waist are turning in the same direction. And that means the upper waist on one side of the body and the lower waist or lower abs on the opposite side of the body, all turning together. In this case, turning counterclockwise. When we do the step out from repulse monkey to slanting flying, we're going to be doing a switch from torsional rotation to concordant rotation, and that switch is going to be what powers the turn. That's the waist rotation switch, but also the hip energy. So there's a combination of upper waist, lower waist, and hip action in every movement we do. And in this case, the hip action is going to be flexion of the swing leg hip. When we flex the hip, it actually has a pulling action toward that side. So if I flex the right hip, it tends to pull my body towards the right. If I demonstrate flexing of the hip like that, it may be a little bit more obvious why that's a pulling action towards the right. So we're here at the end of repulse monkey. We have torsional rotation on the right. You can see the upper waist reflecting in the arm going forward, and then the lower abs are going in the opposite direction, rooting my right leg to the ground. So that's the torsional rotation, and I'm extending my right hip. That's the power. The first part of the transition is changing the torsional rotation from the right to the left as I flex my right hip. So that is the beginning, and you can see the arms begin to switch as that happens. As I become active on the left side of the upper waist, my left arm begins to rise, the right arm begins to drop. My root changes from the forward leg to the rear leg. And then I do one simple action to take the step out, and that's I turn the upper waist to the left this way, and that releases the leg to swing around that way. It might be a little hard to understand what's causing that dramatic swing around, but that is that pulling action from the flexing hip. Once I release the energy with the waist rotation, the flexing hip is what pulls the entire body around to the right. So I turn the upper waist to the right and root the left. And then as I turn the upper waist back to the left, it causes the swing around. And then now I move directly into slanting flying, or the parting the wild horse's mane appearing movement. So let me explain this movement. The lower abs, or the root, are going to be changing from the left side, turning back to the left, to the right side, turning back to the right. Think of the belly button as a stand-in for the lower abs. The belly button here is turning to the left, and as I shift, it's going to turn from the left to the right. And as I do that, the arm is going to rise, my right arm, because the energy of the right arm is being projected by the upper waist muscle, which is turning to the left this way. And it's going to continue turning to the left. So I'm not doing anything with the rotation of the upper waist. I'm keeping it here. And what's changing is the belly button pulling the body around to the right. So it's the belly button that's in action here, and the upper waist is just turning against it, stabilizing the motion. And then the power for that movement is coming from flexion of my left hip. I went from flexion of the right hip to flexion of the left hip. to create that motion. Now, here's where you might be having a challenge in parting the wild horse's mane. Because when we do slanting flying, in this position, we have concordant rotation of the waist. Upper and lower waist are turning towards the rear leg. That's the perfect setup to perform the motion. I have the full twisting action of the belly button there. When we do an advancing step into parting the wild horse's mane, when we step out, we have placed the root on the front leg, which means my belly button is actually turning towards the front leg, turning to the right at this point. It's not turning to the left. If we want to do parting the wild horse's mane with the correct energy, I have to turn the belly button back to the left to set it up. And when I do that, you can notice that my weight is going to sink and my foot is going to flatten out from the heel down to the flat position. Now I am in the same windup that I was in before slanting flying, and I can perform the movement. If I don't do that movement and I just step out like this, my belly button doesn't do any rotation, nor does the upper waist, which was already here. I'm just shifting forward, and you're going to get stuck because there's not enough movement happening to make the arms do what they're supposed to do. You have to have this full rotation of the belly button from left to right to create the motion. And so that can be missing in a lot of people's movement in parting the wild horse's mane. And I think that because whenever I see people demonstrating parting the wild horse's mane on YouTube, they almost never drop the foot before they move into parting the wild horse's mane. They go directly from the step out and do it. Now you'll notice I just did the motion, but I was kind of faking it. You can always move your arms where you think they're supposed to go, but they're not going there because of the proper core rotational energy. If you want true internal power and connection, the waist rotation has to be correct. And so that is what it's supposed to be in parting the wild horse's mane and in slanting flying. Now let me connect this to your everyday walking technique, because I want to have you get the feel of that torsional rotation and how that torsional rotation is used when you're walking. So I'm going to turn around this way, and let's see, we're doing repulse monkey. I have torsional rotation on the right. Now I'm going to change to torsional rotation on the left. And this is a good position to feel before we step off if I wanted to just take a normal walking step on level ground with proper posture and hip power. My foot is angled out this way, and I'm going to take a step in the direction my foot is facing by activating my standing leg hip. I've already got the torsional rotation of the waist in place. That torsional rotation should be present when we are stepping forward on the side of the standing leg. We can't really stop in mid-movement when we're walking, so there's not really a good place to pause and show you the position. This position, transitioning from repulse monkey, is a good stopping point where I can really show you how the swing through is triggered in a normal step. So we're here. Torsional rotation on the left. And then now what I want you to feel is the difference between powering your swing through by extending your left hip from the glutes, which is what people sometimes mistakenly do, and powering from flexing using your hip flexors. If you push down using the glutes, this is what's going to happen. I just end up pushing myself up, not forward. So that's pushing down with the hip extensors. Think of pushing your knee backward. That's what hip extension is. Now what we're going to do is what we should be doing in a normal step is power the swing through with the front muscles of the hip, pulling the leg forward, not pushing the leg backward. And what you'll see if you do it correctly is that. It triggers a proper swing through of the swing leg. And then you can place your foot and continue on with the next step. You'll notice the posture does not lean forward. It does not crash into the heel. It ends there. Then we rotate to bring the heel down in a controlled fashion to begin the next step. If you're interested in the core movement for walking, I suggest signing up for the Walking Code online course. And there's also a bundle with the Tai Chi Code course, which you can find linked in the description section.